Right, we're going to go over the second part of our review number 12. We have already covered the first 9 problems, I guess it is. And so today I'm going to go through 10 through 19. So here we go. Number 10 says that you have a golf ball hit into the air. The path of the ball can be described by this equation right here, where h is the height in meters and t is the time in seconds. Okay, part A says how high is the ball after 3 seconds? Well, 3 seconds is the time, so I put 3 into my t's. So 3 goes into that t, and 3 goes into that t, and then I calculate it, and I get 165 meters. Okay, B says after how many seconds will the ball be 169 meters high? Well, if this is its height, then that's the h. So that means h is 169. So I put 169 where the h is, and then I recopied my equation. I know that if I was going to factor this, that I don't like my quadratic term to be negative. So I moved this whole side of the equation over to the left side. So I moved the minus 5t squared by adding it. That's why it's positive. I moved the 70t by subtracting it. That's why it's negative. And the 169, I didn't move that at all, so that's why it's still positive. And then trying to think of a times c rooftop, that's really big numbers. So I decided that I was going to go for the quadratic formula. And I just do exactly what it tells me to do. So I'll give you a moment to look this over. But I just identified my A, my B, and my C. I plugged them in like the formula told me. I got this for an answer, and then I plugged it in my calculator, and I got my 2 decimal answers. So just to show you how to plug this in your calculator, just in case you're not certain, I first would go 70 plus square root of 1520. I hit enter, and then I still have to divide by 10. And if I round that to the nearest tenths, you get 10.9. To get my next answer, I'm going to do the same thing, but it's going to be 70 minus square root of 1520. And then when I get that answer, I divide by 10. And if I round to the nearest tenths, I get 3.1. Okay, C says, when will the ball hit the ground? If the ball hits the ground, then the height of the ball is 0. So I put 0 where the h was, recopied my equation. I moved this whole side again to the left, so I added the 5t squared, which made it positive. I subtracted the 70t, which made it negative. I decided to factor this one out. It had a GCF of a 5t. That left me with t minus 14, and then I set both of those factors equal to 0, and I solved those 2 equations, and I got 0 and 14. This 0 is when it starts, and this 14 is when it ends. So it hits the ground after 14 seconds. Okay. This next one talks about area of a rectangle. It tells me what the area is, where W is width, and it wants me to find the length and the width, but the width is the only thing that it specifically asks for. So you know how area is length times width, something times something? So I'm just trying to figure out what times what could give me this for an answer. So I'm going to factor. Now you'll notice I moved this positive 18 by subtracting 18 from both sides. So that's how I got a 0 on the right side, and that's where my minus 18 came from on my left side. So I factored it out, a times c rooftop. What multiplies to be negative 18, that adds to be negative 7, and that's a negative 9 and a positive 2. Because of the 1 in front, I can shortcut. So w minus 9, w plus 2. I set each of those equal to 0. I set w minus 9 equal to 0 and get 0. I'm sorry, get 9. I set w plus 2 equal to 0 and I get negative 2. And it wants to know what the width is. Well, if you think about width, should width ever be negative? No. So this answer, even though it's an answer, doesn't make sense in the problem because we're asked about the width of the rectangle. And width should never be a negative number of units. It's not a negative length. So I only want this positive answer, which is 9. Okay. 12 wants to know which of the following is not an accurate description. So first of all, I put a 0 where the y is. Equals 0 equals y. They basically mean the same thing. If I set x plus 3 equal to 0, I get negative 3. If I set x minus 8 equal to 0, I get positive 8. So I know that B is not true, because B says the solutions are negative 3 and negative 8, but we can see it's a positive 8 and a negative 3. So I know that B is not true. There actually happens to be another one that's not true. So I'm just going to kind of show you this on the graphing calculator so you can see a bunch of things for yourself. So first thing I did was I went to the y equals on my calculator, and I just typed it in the way I see it. Parenthesis x plus 3, parenthesis x minus 8, and I'm going to hit graph. Okay, I can see that it's a parabola that it opens upward. So that's how I knew A was true. I can see the parabola opens upward. Okay. C says the vertex is 2, negative 15. Well, I'm just going to kind of play with this a little bit. I can't see the vertex, so I'm going to go to Window, and I'm going to change my Y min to, say, negative 20, and take a look. I still can't see it. Let me go down a little bit farther. Negative 40. Okay, this down here is my vertex, and I can find this vertex a few different ways. I'm going to find it by using my calculate button, and I just want to show you. So I'm going to go second calculate. It's a minimum because it's the lowest point on the graph. It wants me to get my cursor somewhere to the left of the lowest point, so that's to the left. I hit enter. Then get my cursor somewhere to the right. I hit enter. Guess where it looks like that lowest spot is? I hit enter, and you can see the lowest spot is negative 30.25. This right here is the ordered pair for the vertex, about 2.5, negative 30.25, which is not this vertex right here. Okay, the y-intercept is this guy right here, and it's kind of hard to tell, but I can actually go to my table and see if 0, negative 24 is there. And you can see that 0, negative 24 is there, so that is our y-intercept. And I can find that y-intercept a different way too, but I can tell from the table that 0, negative 24 is there, so that's our y-intercept, so that one's true also. Okay, number 13. It gives us the length, it gives us the width, and it asks for the area. So remember, once again, area is length times width. So I take my length times my width. I just double distributed, which is also called FOIL. And when I do that, I get this for an answer. Okay, next page. This one wanted me to solve, so the first thing I did was I distributed to get rid of my parentheses, distributed the negative 2, distributed the 6. That was the first thing I did. I removed all my parentheses by distributing the number that was smushed up against them. Okay, next thing is if you ever have like terms on the same side, you can combine them. So a 7x and a minus 2x makes a 5x. I can also combine the positive 28 and the negative 6, which makes 22. If I ever have like terms on opposite sides of the equals, I have to move one of them. So I chose to move the 5x by subtracting 5x to both sides. That way 5x minus 5x is 0. It's not there anymore. I bring down the 22. 6x minus 5x is x, and I bring down the plus 30. And then the next thing to do to get x by itself is subtract 30 from both sides, and that makes negative 8. Okay, number 15 gives me the volume, it gives me the length, the width, and asks for the height. So remember, volume is length times width times height. And there's a few ways I could do this problem. This is how I chose to do it. I decided to write down the volume in place of the V. I wrote the length in place of the L, the width in place of the W. And I'm just kind of working backwards, kind of. I need to know what my height is. So 4 times 7 is 28. 28 times what would give me an 84? 28 times what would give me an 84? And it'd be a 3. Then I've got 2 x's and 1 more x, which makes 3 x's. How many more x's do I need if I want 7? I've got 2 here, 1 here, that makes 3. So how many more do I need? I need 4 more. Okay, y's. I've got 1 here, I've got 1 here. That's 2 y's, but I want 4. So how many more do I need? 2. Z's. I've got 1 z here, but I want 2. So how many more z's do I need? 1. And that's my answer. Now I can do this problem with division. I could have multiplied these together and then taken the volume and divided by my product that I get, but I just thought this seemed simpler. Okay, number 16. What are the factors of 2x squared plus 5x plus 2? So that just means factor. There's no GCF, so I do a times c rooftop. This is the long one. It didn't ask me to solve it, so I didn't need to set these equal to 0 and solve them. It just wanted to know the factors. So I'm done once I factor. Okay, 17. It gives us the first 5 terms of a number sequence, and it wants to know which of these are the correct expressions that would represent what we see here. And there's a couple ways you can do it. The hint said to make a table of values, so I could go to the stat and I could plug 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into list 1, 6, 10, 14, 18, 22 into list 2, and make the calculator give me the equation. That's one way of doing it. Another way to do it, if you use your calculator, is you could put these expressions in your calculator. Let me just show you 6 in. But of course I'm going to type 6x. And then I'm going to go to my table. And when I go to my table, I'm going to see if I see these ordered pairs. So first I'm going to see, do I see 1, 6? Yes, I see 1, 6. Then I'm going to see, do I see 2, 10? I do not see 2, 10, so I know it's not A. Next thing I could try is n plus 4, but instead I'll do x plus 4. Go to my table. First thing I'm going to look for is the 1, 6. Do we see 1, 6? No, so it's not B. I could try C, which is 4x plus 2, just making them x's instead of n's. Go to table. Let's see if we see 1, 6. 1, 6, there it is. Let's see if we see 2, 10. 2, 10, there it is. Then I want to see if there's the 3 of 14. Yep. 4, 18. Yep. 5, 22. Yes, that's it. Another way to just do it mentally. If I put 1 into this n, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 plus 2, 6. Check. If I put 2 into the n, 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. Check. If I plug 3 into the n, 3 times 4 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. Check, etc. Lots of ways of doing this problem. Okay, this one gives me a point and a slope, so I know that I'm going to use point-slope form. And I just work it out. So y minus the y-coordinate equals slope times x minus the x-coordinate. Distribute the negative 1, and then get y by itself by subtracting 2. Pretty easy peasy there. And number 19, I didn't work because I just thought I would just show you all the steps in the calculator just to make sure we're good. So I've showed you guys this a few different times. I can definitely find these equations by hand by finding how do you get from here to here, here to here, find my slope by taking y over x, etc. I could do it that way. But I'm going to make the calculator do all my work. I'm going to go to the button that says Stat. I want to put data in, so I want to edit. In list 1, I'm going to put my x's. In list 2, I'm going to put my y's. Then I'm going to go back to stat. I'm going to go over to calculate. I want to find the equation of the line, so I want number 4, len reg. And I get y equals 2x minus 9. Okay, then I want the equation for the next table. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back to stat, edit. List 1 will be for the x's. List 2 will be for the y's. I go back to stat. I go over to calculate. I want the equation of the line, number 4. And I get y equals negative 3x plus 6. Y equals negative 3x plus 6. Now, I could continue, and I could solve by hand with substitution, the bread meat bread method. I could graph them. I could do elimination, but I'm going to choose graphing, and I'm going to make the calculator graph them. So I'm going to type in the 2x minus 9, and I'm going to type in the negative 3x plus 6, and then I'm going to hit graph. Of course, my graph looks funky because I changed it earlier when I was showing you something. Okay, so one thing I can do is I can go second, trace, 5, enter, enter, enter. Second, trace. The reason I want 5 is because I want to know where they intersect. Enter, enter, enter. And I see that they intersect at 3, negative 3. So that is the answer, 3, negative 3. The other way I can find that answer is by looking in the table, and I can see that both lines have the ordered pair 3, negative 3. So I know that that's another way of knowing that that's the solution. And that's it. All right, hopefully that will prepare you for your test, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.